Welcome, class, to the factor check. I hope going through this will help you understand factoring better. Just rewatch them if you need to. It will really factor into your grade. Okay, so when you're doing a GCF, you should always look for, and read the directions, just GCF. Look for the smallest number. I mean, every problem's different, of course, but 7 does go into 28. So as soon as you know that 7 goes into 28, you know you can take out a 7. Look for the x's. Don't think of it as one variable here. It's two different variables. I got 5 x's. I got 1 x. I want to take the most x's I can take out. So I'm going to take 1 x out of this problem because I can take 1 here. I can take 1 here. I can't take any more than that. Y squared, y cubed. The most I'm allowed to take out is actually the smallest amount I see. So the GCF for this problem is 7xy squared. Now, we're going to have something minus something on the inside because really this is the reverse of the distributive property. That's what factoring is. So 7xy squared, if I were to bring this through, to multiply this through, I got to think about what I would have to multiply by to get this. Well, that is only x to the 4th power. So x to the 4th power would make this x to the 5th, and it would be that first term. Now, we have to put a 4 in this back end because 7 times 4 is 28. X is good. Y squared is missing a y. All right? So there we go. The direction said factor out of GCF. We factored out of GCF. All right, this grouping one, I bet a bunch of you are watching because it's a little tricky. Now, if I try to take a GCF out of everything, I can't. So there's 4 terms, and it is the grouping method is what's being asked. So a 4 goes into these first 2 terms. So I'm going to take a 4 out. They also both have a y. So in both of these first 2 terms right here, I can take a 4y out. Well, then I'm going to be left with an x squared here, because again, just like the GCF talk, that's what we have, minus a 3 on the back end. Well, I think what might help some of you is realize that we need to get this. Think about that. We need this in the next parenthesis. Well, they both have a 7. So if I take out a negative 7 right now, that would leave me with a 3 because 7 times 3 is 21. And then I know a lot of us are going to want to put a plus on the inside here, right? Well, if I put a plus on the inside, what I would actually have is I would have negative 7 times a positive x squared to give me a positive, and that's not going to work. So we actually have to have a minus x squared here. Negative 7 times 3 is negative 21. Negative 7 times negative x squared is positive 7x squared, and that's exactly how you have to initially do this problem. But then, switching my colors here, we got to think about, well, these don't match. Well, this is the situation where the x squared minus 3, we really want this to say x squared minus 3. So we really want this to be a positive. We want this to be a negative, and that's totally legal as long as you change this sign on the outside. So you just change all 3 signs there, and then it'll work out nice because now we still have negative 21. We still have positive 7x squared. It does affect this first parenthesis, so now I have 4y plus 7. And in the second one, this says x squared minus 3, so does that. You can write it either way. They do say the exact same thing, just look a little different. So x squared minus 3. So this would be the answer to that one. All right, guess and check. Some of us are rocking guess and check, some of us aren't. Wherever you're at, if you're watching the video, you probably need a little practice, and that's fine. So remember, the first thing I look at, I'm going to highlight all of them, is the last sign. Please always look at the last sign in every problem. So I'm actually going to do this because I think this might help some of you. I'm going to set up the parentheses for all of these problems. So you see some kind of repetition of this concept. So all of these are trinomials. That's what the learning target asked me to do. I'm not going to have to worry about a GCF because for these ones, I did not ask you to take out a GCF first. So now, look here, a minus. If you ever see a minus here, it's going to be one of each every single time. So when I look at this problem, it's a minus on the back end, one of each. What about here? Oh, it's a plus. That doesn't tell me they're both positive. It tells me they're both the same. So they're both the same, right? Both the same. Now I look at this middle term. Oh, they're both going to be positive. Same thing here, positive. They're both going to be the same. But when I look here this time, I get minus and minus. All right, so there we go. We got that. Most kids are doing okay when this, what we call the leading coefficient, is 1 here, because x and x are the first part of FOIL that gets you to x squared. Now make sure you're listing out the factors of 21, because those are the factors that we take into the back end of the problem. So all we do is we try the two that are close together. So what I'm going to try right now is I'm going to try just putting a 3 here and putting a 7 here, and I want to see if it works. What I do in green on this video will be checking my work. So guess, and then check. So when I do the outside, I get negative 7x. When I do the inside here, I get 3x. When I add those together, I get negative 4x. Well, when I look back at the problem, I want a positive 4x. This is not bad news. This just means I need to switch the signs. If you ever get it like that, you just need to switch the signs. So make that a negative, make that a plus. The reason is now this will be positive 7x, now this will be negative 3x, and now we will get what we want right there. So that's why that works. Okay, all right, next problem. Again, x and x, no big deal on the front end. Factors of 14, 1 and 14, 2 and 7. Okay, so try 2 and 7. All right, well, if I try a, wait a minute, we have to get y squared. So we can't just put a 2 and put a 7 in there. We have to actually put the y with it. Just put a y with it, because now you'll get that y squared. So when I check my outside inside, all right, so here's the inside. If we go this order, might be a little bit more visually appealing, plus 2xy, and then the outside here, negative 7xy. When I add those together, I get negative 5xy. Oh, I want a positive 5xy. So we just got this practice on the last one. Switch this to a minus, switch that to a positive, and you got the right answer. Okay, moving right along here. Here we go. This one, factors of 15 are 1 and 15 and 3 and 5. So we need to make an adjustment on this problem. We can't just put an x and an x, because if we did the first part of FOIL there, x times x would give me x squared. That's great, but we need it to say 15. So again, my advice is to use 3 and 5 first. If we exhaust possibilities and it doesn't work, then we can always try 1 and 15. There's not a lot of factors of 2. That's good. So we put a 1 and we put a 2 in there. And guess what? We need to check. So I take this and I'm like, oh, boom, 1 times 5x on the inside, 3x times 2 on the outside is 6x. That's a grand total of 11x's. Is that what I wanted? No, it's not even the right number. So we don't just switch the sign. What we got to do now is we got to try different numbers. So I'm going to erase what I just did, go back, and I got to try something different. So I tried a 1 and a 2. Well, I mean, this, you may not think that this affects things, but it does affect things by switching those around, because now when we do the inside, I get 2 times 5x, which is 10x's. And then on the outside, I get 3x's. So that's a 13x, which is exactly what I want, which means I have the correct answer to that problem. So you got to guess and check. All right, if that didn't work, we would have to switch and try the 1x and the 15x. Okay, so now in this one, there's only 2 factors of 2, 1 and 2. So 2x and x go here. And then the factors of 6 that are really close together are 2 and 3. So if I try a 2 and a 3 here, I'm just guessing. Now I can check. Inside first is a negative 2x. Outside there is a negative 6x for a grand total of negative 8x's. And that is not what I want. So I go back and I switch them. So I had a 2 here before, now I'll put a 3 there, now I'll put a 2 there. Inside now, negative 3x. Outside, negative 4x for a grand total of negative 7x's. That makes me do this that looks sad. I'm happy. I don't know how to make it a happy face, but it works then.